Tonight, as UN inspectors search for Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction, we take you into Britain's secret former chemical weapons factory in North Wales. The Valley Works has kept its secrets for over 50 years because everybody who worked here making secret weapons to beat Hitler had to sign the Official Secrets Act. So their families, even to this day, have never really known what they did here or what dangers they were exposed to. People want to know what happened to their relatives who died young after working there. It's been derelict since the war, but is it still dangerous today?
It may well have, in a way, putting it bluntly, killed my father.
It's a legacy which should now be sorted out.
With the cameras being let in for the first time, we bring you the full story. The beautiful Alyn Valley in North Wales has been blighted by a secret. The huge Valley Works chemical weapons factory beside the village of Rhydymwyn produced 1 million chemical shells during the Second World War. It was home to Britain's early atomic weapons programme, and during the Cold War it became the secret command centre in the event of nuclear war. Now derelict, the land lies poisoned and unusable, amid rumours that many who worked there were poisoned too. David Bryn Jones wants to know why his father died young after working there.
I hope to get some idea of what it was like. I realise after all this time it will have changed tremendously from when my father worked here. But I might be able to bury some ghosts.
David's father was a fireman.
If anything was spilt or an accident happened, a klaxon was sounded, people were herded from the areas, gates were closed, and the firemen were called, and they came to flush this toxic material, and it wasn't just washed away down the mines. I don't think they were aware of what they were working with. I don't think anybody, except perhaps the top people. All they told people was that they were working on a new sort of plastic.
Bob Jones died in 1953, aged just 52, of a very rare leukemia.
We were informed that it was a strange form for an adult to have because it normally affected young children. Everybody said, that it was where he worked that caused this problem, where he worked. That does make you think that perhaps it wasn't just your normal, accident of nature, leukemia, that some material had got into his system.
Other family members also worked at the site during the war. Secrecy was so complete that even 55 years on, many are still afraid of revealing too much for fear of breaching the Official Secrets Act. David's aunt Dora worked with toxic chemicals on the so-called dirty side of the factory.
You could go on the safe side or you could go on the dirty side sort of thing, so you had a choice. So it's, you had extra money for.
And you chose the dirty side?
I chose the dirty side, yes. Being greedy.
Dora was one of 7 children. 2 of her brothers worked at the factory. One was David's father, Bob, and a younger brother, Ted.
He was careless, he'd do anything. When they were closing the place, he'd empty the tanks and that sort of thing. Lots of things I could tell you, but I can't.
Dora is still afraid to say too much about the factory because she, like all the other workers, had to sign the Official Secrets Act. But she's convinced her 2 brothers and many others who worked there died younger than they should have.
Quite a few, yes. Yeah, quite a lot.
Those others who died include the father of Tommy Barnabas. There was no choice for men like Griffith Barnabas, forced to work at the Valley Works by the direct labour scheme.
In them days, people had to work to earn money. There was no national insurance or anything like that, was there? There was no education like it is today, was it? Like my mother brought us all up on less than £3 a week. I think he had a heck of a hard life. He was off work for a month, I think, from Rhydymwyn. He always complained about his stomach and things to my mother, not to us kids, we were only young.
He died in 1947, just 2 years after leaving the factory, having worked underground with toxic chemicals. Barnabas developed cancer, which eventually spread to his brain. He was only 48 years old.
He was still very young at 48, wasn't it? Especially if you'd have seen my father, such a big, healthy, fit man, to go like that. You know, if it, more or less like, if it had been a natural death, like, such as a heart attack or something like that, like, you could forgive more, couldn't you?
But you can't forgive this?
No, you can't. You can't forgive the people that sent him there. He had one of the biggest funerals around. He was well liked. The men walked at the side of the hearse from Hollywood, from where I lived in the Strand, right down to Greenfield. He had 8 bearers, and they were all good mates of his.
Tommy believes a number of his father's pallbearers also died young because they worked at the Valley Works, but he can't prove it. Now the gates are being opened to the public. Until now, official secrecy has prevented Tommy and David learning about what their fathers did for the war effort.
The site throughout its history has always been cloaked in secrecy all through the war and in the post-war period as well. The site actually started to function in 1940. It was basically decided that there was going to be a mustard gas production facility because the government realised that Nazi Germany might well invade. And Churchill's plan in May 1940 was that if the Germans did invade, then he was going to decimate the whole of South East England with mustard gas. Scorched earth policy, which would have been nice. But in preparation for that, there were different ICI plants around the country who were producing the constituents to make mustard gas. But it was decided that this wasn't enough in terms of, obviously, the amount that they would require if there was an invasion.
The War Ministry knew the site would be safe from the Luftwaffe's aerial attacks, and it was close to ICI plants on Merseyside, so it was quickly pressed into service. But the health and safety of its staff was not top priority.
Certainly in terms of people who worked on the site at the time, it was usually process and maintenance staff who had to clear up spills of mustard gas. And when they did so, it was pretty rudimentary gear that they were using. They had these protective cloth suits and respirators.
When we had the spill, we just have to put up gas masks. We carried them about with us, you see, everywhere. And we had to put them on as well with the... when we had these big spills in the conveyor belts.
Often, because of the urgency of needing to clear up a spill quickly, they would go in there with light clothing, and so they would get spills on their skin, in their eyes, and their lungs. And although we haven't got in-depth medical reports, certainly from the documentation that is there were, certainly dozens or scores of people who were seriously affected by this vesicant, this mustard gas.
The contaminated clothing and other chemical waste products were then burned on the site in an incinerator like this one.
There was an incinerator there. That was to burn the foul linen and things like that, anything on the rubbers and everything that was any spillage. They'd burn that there.
It's bound to have affected their health later. Unfortunately, there's never been any follow-up medical studies that I'm aware of, certainly not in the public record anyway.